Bird is the word. I'm Jason Horton.
I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And this is Ghost Town.
In 1925, there were more than 6 million farms in the United States, triple what we have now. They were local, small properties with a mix of crops and animals, and almost always chickens. For most of the farms, the point of having chickens were the eggs. Chickens were rarely sold for meat, only when they were male or unable to produce eggs. Think kind of like an old McDonald's farm, like that old archetype of what a farm is in children's books and whatever. Farmers chose the breed they raised based on what type worked best for whatever climate they were farming in, or because they liked some award-winning bird at a state fair. But in a matter of 5 years, that would all changed, based not on mass farming or hormones, don't worry, that'll come later, but by what was essentially a beauty pageant for chickens, the Chicken of Tomorrow contest. Changes were already happening for chicken farmers before World War II. In 1923, the electrically heated incubator was invented, so farmers could hatch eggs at insane rates, outsourcing the incubation process so the chicken was freed up to make lots more eggs. Still, breeds were selected to be sturdy, not for anyone's eating pleasure. Before World War II, chicken wasn't eaten as much as we might eat it today. It was reserved for special occasions. But after the war, people wanted to indulge. Howard C. Pierce, the poultry research director for A&P supermarket chain, saw this post-war celebration boom, let's say as a way to make some money. In 1944, Pierce went to a poultry convention in Canada and said that someone needed to develop some kind of giant, large-breasted super chicken, something more like a turkey. By next summer, his wish was granted. With sponsorship from Pierce and the A&P supermarket chain, A&P was truly like the Walmart of its time. The USDA organized the Chicken of Tomorrow contest, and every major poultry distributor was very into it. The contest was aimed at breeding a better chicken with, according to an incredible documentary on the subject, links will be in the episode notes, again, check it out, a, quote, broad-breasted bird with bigger drumsticks, plumper thighs, and layers of white meat. Exactly what Pierce was looking for. The contest had 55 national organizers, scientists and bureaucrats loaned from government agencies, producer and agricultural colleges, and hundreds of volunteers in 44 states. It began with state contests in 1946, then went on to regional judging in 1947, and would end with a giant national competition in 1948, held at the University of Delaware's Agricultural Experiment Station. And yes, you get one more delicious chicken description before we get to the contest itself, just to show you that everyone was watching. Everyone was weighing in on what they thought the ideal chicken was. A 1947 article in the Saturday Evening Post said that the Chicken of Tomorrow would surely be, quote, one bird chunky enough for the whole family, a chicken with breast meat so thick you can carve it into steaks, with drumsticks that contain a minimum of bone buried in layers of juicy dark meat, all costing less instead of more. That sounds good. Let's take a break. Anyone who wanted to compete could, they just needed to do two things. One, within one calendar year, devise and breed a bird that possessed these delicious, meaty credentials. Number two, if they reached that goal, then they had to prove their bird was reproducible by breeding enough birds in enough generations to last through what was essentially a 3-year chicken beauty pageant. Breed crossing was expected for the contest, but generally not reliable. Most crossbreeds of chickens came out sickly, so most of the contestants turned up the pure breeds they were already raising. In the final stage of the contest, it was game on for 40 chicken farmers that bred a potential bird and proved they could make a bunch of them. By March 1948, each chicken farmer shipped 720 eggs to a protected Maryland hatchery. The shipments came from 25 states and were loaded onto trains according to a precise timetable so that they arrived at the exact right hour to go right into the incubators. The batches were coded so their farmer was absolutely anonymous. Once the eggs hatched, 410 chicks, 400 for judging and 10 for backups, were picked at random and couriered to a brand new secret Chicken of Tomorrow barn. The chicks were allowed to grow for 12 weeks and 2 days, and then they were slaughtered and processed, as if they were going to be sold. Of the 400, the best 50 were picked for judging. That meant the judges were looking at 2,000 chickens and evaluating each of them on 18 criteria, from body structure to skin color, to how they develop feathers, to muscle plumpness. On June 24, 1948, the judges announced their results on a stage strewn with boxes of chicken carcasses from each of the contestants' batches. The first runner-up was a guy named Henry Saglio, the teenage son of Italian immigrant farmers who had bred his family's pure line of white Plymouth Rocks into muscular, meaty birds. The winner was California farmer Charles Vantress, who had crafted a red-feathered hybrid out of a popular New Hampshire and California breed. That evening, the contest celebrated Saglio, Vantress, and the chicken of tomorrow with a parade through Georgetown, Delaware, complete with floats depicting the phases of the poultry industry, and a car that drove a smiling, waving, festival broiler queen. She was the winner of a beauty contest held by a popular New England chicken festival, the Belfast Broiler Festival. Maybe that's an episode for another day. There was a second version of the contest 3 years later, and Vantress won again with another plump little crossbreed. He would go on to establish one of the industry's top hatchery companies and create an often contentious rivalry for the ages with, of course, his runner-up, Henry Saglio. Still, Vantress hybrids were bought by 60% of breeders across the country. In a matter of 5 years, the small but sturdy purebreds that had dominated farming for over 100 years almost completely disappeared. The Chicken of Tomorrow contest changed the chicken industry forever. Raising chickens were more like raising corn, precisely engineered with specific genetics in mind, with closely guarded copyrights. Before chemicals, before hormones, before mass meat production that would change the landscape yet again, was the Chicken of Tomorrow.
This reminded me of the 1930s Miss Lovely Eyes contest that they had where their whole face is obscured with a terrifying mask just to showcase their eyes.
Oh, God.
And I feel like back then, and maybe now I'm just not familiar with, having a beauty contest of not a typical sort was a popular thing to do.
Absolutely. I feel like post-war America loved a beauty contest in whatever form, a contest in whatever form. I feel like we were just coming out of the war. Like I said, people wanted to have fun. They thought America was the best. Obviously, like coming off of this, horrific war, but also just being America and solidifying its place in world history, but also just supremacy and talking about, different countries and ethnocentricity. I think like judging and finding the best thing was really a part of Boomer America. But, to have chickens and to have a big corporation at the time be like, hey, small time farmers, how about you guys do the work, get together. We're going to award you for finding something that we can co-opt and then sell to the masses no matter what. At the end of the day, we're going to even turn that up to the nth degree when we add different types of sciences, also feels very American.